All right, so this is my friend Betty Welborn, and we're working on a genealogy for her family on the Wellbourne line. So she's joined Ancestry.com, and we were trying to fill in a gap where she found an ancestor in a census, and they only listed her maiden name. We'll show that to you real quick. Hey, Betty.
Hey.
So what she's doing right here is Betty has created a Ancestry.com website, which I actually recommend for people. You can keep a little better track and compare notes with other people, and they give you a lot of information, shipping documents, things like that, newspaper clippings, other stuff that you can compare to. So in that sense, it's worth doing. You can actually do a lot of research online by yourself as well without having to join up to a group like this, but at some point it does help to organize it. So what has happened with Betty is Betty went on on her website, and she had traced what was it? It was it a tax record?
Right, a census.
A census record, and it listed her great grandmother.
It was my great grandmother,
right,
as Vogel,
right,
Wellborn, which I thought was an odd first name. So I was told by an uncle that her maiden name was Vogel. So I questioned, okay, the census record did not have a first name. It just said Vogel. So then I did some more research and to find out what her true real name, first name was. And then Lauren went onto a different website. I don't know which one that was.
I just Googled it.
Okay, and then
which is what I always do.
Right, and there was another genealogy website where someone was looking for a Vogel Wellbourne.
Gen Web or something like that, yeah, or Gen Forum.
Right, and so he looked at it, and I read it, and it was looking for Carlina Vogel, who was married to Ulysses S. Grant Wellborn, married. And I looked at the bottom of it, and it was my Uncle Buddy.
It was your Uncle Buddy. So your Uncle Buddy left that information for you.
Right, and he's
which you never
deceased
would have
now.
known, and he's
Right.
gone now.
Right.
But you had talked to him when he was alive about this.
Right, and it was
Yeah.
him that had told me that her maiden name was Vogel.
Right.
So that's how I knew that. So now I'm just updating
Now we're updating the
Right.
Profile because she
The-
found that little piece of information that she was
Yeah.
missing.
the record, hoping that now somebody will have like a Carlina Vogel or Carlina
Right.
Wellborn, and it'll take me to another layer.
So I'll Google that next for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So Noelle, who's sitting right next to me but doesn't want her picture taken because she's been milking goats, looked up on, what is this, Find a Grave probably?
I Googled
Yeah,
it.
it's like, or finding a memorial. You can Google things and find a grave and memorial, find memorials. And she found, who is this, Betty?
This is a little backstory. This is my grandmother and grandfather, who I am named after Betty Ann Wellborn, and my brother is named after James. I don't know, James. I can't remember. See his middle
It's
name.
a U.
It's Ulysses.
Ulysses.
Yeah. Okay.
Wellborn.
I'll zero back and look at
Okay.
you.
So what happened is my grandma and grandpa died when my father was born. They were hit by a train in their car. My grandfather, James Wellborn, died like on the way to the hospital. My grandmother, Betty, died shortly after she gave birth to my father. And so it left my Uncle Buddy and my dad orphans. And so they were adopted by my grandfather James's mom and dad.
Right.
So all of his aunts and uncles now became his brothers and sisters.
Right.
So that kind of, I wanted to honor their memory because so far in the genealogy, they don't have a family or anything, and there's nothing that shows that they had these two children, my
Right.
father and my uncle, and that my father had two kids that were named after them
Right.
in their honor. And so I wanted to make sure that their legacy and everything was documented, and just to honor their memory.
Right. Very nice.
And so I've done that, and now I'm just digging deeper and deeper to find out more about
And
it.
going further and further back.
Right.
Well, because ultimately we realize that you're probably from like a Norman Viking lineage.
And which I was told, through the Wellborn family, and I've done Wellborn searches like where does Wellborn come from, and so there is that kind of whole Scandinavian root that then became
English. Yeah, it became anglicized.
And then at some point, the Wellborns came over to Virginia.
Right.
And so now I'm just trying to find that link between them
and your family,
my
in,
family
Iowa.
in Iowa.
Right, which is probably not that hard to do, really. Yeah.
Not from what you tell me.
It's not. Yeah, we'll probably do it in about 20 minutes.
Oh, that's great. That'll be great.
So, in an exciting turn of events, we just found Jesse Wellborn, who was married to Matilda Skinner, and in a genealogy forum, I found out what his father and mother's name were, which takes us one more generation back.
Right.
Which would be like what, around, we figure probably like late 1700s.
Right. And evidently he had another wife.
Yes.
Named Sarah.
Yeah, Jesse had two wives, which is what makes it confusing, as you see. His wife Matilda and his wife Sarah, who he later married and moved to.
Yeah. So the
California
mystery
with the plot thickens.
I love it.
But we also know that he's he's descended from a Revolutionary War soldier in Virginia.
Right.
Which would connect Betty back to England, most likely.
Right.
If we can trace
they all came
the gaps
to
between.
Virginia. Right. See, so now I'm starting to make that connection from Iowa to Virginia, which is what.
Which makes sense. Yeah, they're pioneers.
And I said earlier in the discussion. So, okay.
Oh, my. There you have it. Okay, so I just went on a genealogy forum with the last name we were talking about, Jesse. And so what we did is I went on a forum that was dealing with his name and his wife's name and found out that from a cousin who she doesn't know that he married 4 times. So we keep finding the other wife on Ancestry.com, but there are actually 2 other wives apparently. But what was interesting about it was she gave his mother and father's name, and then when we Googled the mother and father's name, it opened up. She's back to
1772 is when he was born. So,
right. And we'll probably be able to find his parents and go
well,
back.
they're here.
His parents were
Isaac, Wellborn, and Rebecca R.
Right.
So the thing,
and his spouse was Lydia Paget.
Right. See, we were looking for Matilda Skinner, who is the mother of my great uncle or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was looking to find information on Matilda. All I could find was her married date. I couldn't find birth date or death or anything. But then with Jesse, I found him, and he had moved to California, and I found this Sarah E. person, and that made sense. But then this person that Lauren was on found out that he...
this cousin.
Said he was married 4 times, so that would explain this other Sarah,
right?
Who I'll research at another time.
But it also gave us the information of who the next ancestor was in the link to get you that much further back.
Exactly. So
from someone that we don't know and that she doesn't know that's related to the same people.
Yeah, she knew the spelling of, his parents. So that was very cool because now and then. It popped up and confirmed everything that she said, North Carolina, Kentucky, all of that. And now since I have his parents, now I can go back another generation.
Right. So we're using a combination of Googling the people and then going on Ancestry and finding other records to substantiate what we're finding out from other people. So basically you have to harvest information from your cousins.
Right.
So now what I'm doing
exactly.
which is very cool.
Right. So
or you can do this on your computer. Is up in the search window. I'm putting William Richard. Well, gotta turn my phone. My phone light went off. William Richard Wellborn, and I'm going to put in his wife's name, Lydia Paget. And then that should open up potentially either another genealogy forum or actual records that will show them in North Carolina. And that's the next step that we're going to take. So we're advancing back from the 1770s and trying to go to colonial America to find out when they came over. Okay, so I think you should be able to see this phone. I'm hoping. I hope. Anyway, what it says is in the search window, it's showing family genealogy forum messages, And if you can see that, which I hope you can, it has Lydia Paget married William Wellborn. And in one of these forums is going to be that section that's posted by some cousin or family member that we don't know that has given some information about these two people, hopefully. So I'm going to punch on that and search through these little forum answers under surprisingly different family names, because this is Wilburn, Jarvis, Jones, but these are families that are connected through marriage to the Wellborn family. So we're going to do that. Let me show that to you so you can actually see it. And it takes a little bit of time, but it's going to get us potentially further back. And then in this first forum, which was Wilburn, they have the one daughter of William W. Wilburn. And we're going to see if that's the same Wilborn spelled a different way. So we found Isaac Wellborn on Find a Grave, and they have his birth listed as 1732 in Baltimore County, Maryland, USA. And he died in March of 1800 in Stokes County, North Carolina. And it gives his family members and a statement from his will. And then over here, Betty is also filling in the blanks on Ancestry.com. And they have him listed as being born like 5 years later in 1738. Let me see if I can get in on that real quick here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
So there he is, and he's in 1738. But we know this is the same person, so that's
because
good.
the place
and we
is
have,
the same.
Yeah, the place is the same, but the death date is different, and it's possible because of the grave. I'm going to scoot over here real quick. If you notice, as I page down here, the grave on this website doesn't exist anymore, but it has a little statement of his will, and it gives his daughter's names, for instance, who his parents were, his father. So we know this is the same person now. So now I have his parents. His parents were William Wellborn. Let me come in a little bit with this down. So his parents were William Wellborn, born in 1712, and Anne Crabtree Wellborn. And then it gives his children, his siblings, who were Isaac, William and Jane and James. And it gives also where the church is Abbott's Creek Primitive Baptist Church. Anyway, but the grave is missing apparently because they don't have a photo of it. So that might explain the discrepancy in the dates of the age. But yes, we've confirmed that this is the person, and we're going back one more generation.
Yes.
So now Betty has been able to confirm what I've confirmed on Find a Grave through Googling with what's on Ancestry as well, and she has the name of the father and the mother.
Yeah.
So they've got Anne Crabtree and William Wellborn,
Right.
and their marriage was the 21st of January, 1730, in St. George Parish, Baltimore, Hartford County, Maryland.
Right.
So
Which
she's from
confirms
Iowa, but her family originally came through in Maryland somewhere, from England most likely. All right, groovy.
All right. Very.
And what I'm going to try to do here, it has them highlighted, so I may actually be able, possibly, to find the graves of the... Yes, I can. So what I'm going to do, let me close it up for you, is here he is. It's got the brothers, the sisters, the mother, the father, right? And I'm going to see if I go up here to his father and his mother, if I can find their graves on Find a Grave, which would be really cool. So I am touching it and highlighting it, and here it is. They've got him in Hartford County, Maryland, USA. They don't know. His death is unknown, like the date, but he died in Rowan County, North Carolina, USA. And he was born
senior,
on January the 21st in 1712. Wow, how cool is that? And then they have his parents, who are Edward Wellborn and Elizabeth Wellborn. And he was born in 1660 to 1731, so I'm going to click that link and just try to find out where he was born. And they have his spouse, and they have him dying in St. George, Baltimore County, Maryland, USA. And they don't know where he's buried. They know when he died, and he was born in 1660. So I'll have to go beyond Find a Grave to try to find him with Elizabeth Wellborn. So we've gotten Betty back to 1660 in about, 2 hours.
Yeah. Which is the most I've ever.
Give me
ever
your
been-
shocked expression.
I am like shocked.
Shocking. You've never gotten this far before.
It's like, oh.
But I do this a lot, and that's what I tell people
know,
online
Lauren,
on my
you're
page.
the
It's
master.
I'm an amateur, but I'm a very, very good amateur. I probably could be qualified as a professional, but I
Right.
don't get paid for it, But I am good at this. So the things I tell you on my page
Are true.
are true and work.
Yes. You're so funny. And
So she was able
Yeah.
to find it on Ancestry.com. Let me come in where I can actually see
Yeah,
the
yeah,
screen.
okay.
And what it did was it shows a name change where
Right.
there's a vowel added to the name Wellborn, which is the classic spelling that you get from England.
Right.
And they dropped it when they came to America, but the Wellborns would go back, like I said, to being like Norman Viking ancestry.
This is a simple. That's how we spell it now.
Yeah, right. So anyway, but it has his mother and father, who I confirmed from Find a Grave through the will, and they are Edward Wilburn, but they have Elizabeth Stokes, which is his mother's name, which will
Right.
make it easier for me to Google to that next
Well,
generation.
wait a second. He was born in 1680, and this has him her in 1862. But they died the same year.
Well, it's just an error. She's probably 16.
Well, I can go down here, and this is another tree, the same people.
Yeah.
But see, now it's 1680 and 1682.
Right, so they made a little error when they put it in, but it's
But they
1682.
died the same year.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
Oh, I wonder
All right.
about why.
Well,
Disease
they couldn't live
or-
without each other.
That's
Or
it.
they
That's
got-
it. That's it. Yeah.
Scurvy.
Maybe. Well, that's always curious.
It is. It's interesting.
When
Did they die
die-
of smallpox or something? Who
Right.
knows?
Right.
Yeah. Did they have a famine that year?
Who knows? But okay. Very,
Really?
very cool. I'm very excited.
Okay, so this is the Edward that we were looking back, the next generation up, where they said he was born in 1660, and then on Family Tree it says he was born in 1682. Because people put down whatever they think they have. But this guy here on this genealogical blog page says that he was Edward Levi Wellborn. He was born in 1682 and died in 1731. So there's obviously some debate as to when he was born. But what he furnishes is he said he was born in Canby, Lincolnshire, England, United Kingdom, and he died of the 24th of 1731 in St. George's Parish, Baltimore, Maryland, United States. So right there, we're going to look at his profile and see what he's saying about him and see if we can actually find him back in Lincolnshire or find out who his parents were. So if you look down here in this second column, it has his family members, and this guy says that his father's name was Captain Thomas Wilburn. So we're going to look him up.
Well, actually, and over here, Elizabeth Mitchell
Yes.
says that she was born in 1682 in England.
Which would make sense because people
Right.
at this point in time were traveling back and forth between the colonies, and Maryland was a colony. So you could be born in England and live in the United States or
Correct.
live in the colonies.
Right. So she was born in England.
Most likely.
So
and
now
that
we're
would
getting
not
closer.
surprise me.
Right.
Because at this generation, people would be being born across the sea. you know,
Right. Okay. Great.
And
so
shipping over here. So
Okay.
this is the father of Edward. And Edward's father's was born in Oswaldkirk, Yorkshire, England, which I'm sure was Oswaldkirk, if you were going to say it like it, because York was, a Viking colony actually at one point. Yes. Anyway, but he died in February 12th, 1701 at Accomack, Virginia in the United States. So the father came over as well. So while the children were born in England and the father and the mother were born in England, the father was actually born there as well, brought his children over and died here. And his wife was Arcadia. He also named one of his daughters Arcadia, but his wife was Arcadia Wellborn. And let's see if it has his father on here. And I don't see his father, but I'm going to look this over and I'll clue back in a second. So we found
Edward Wellborn's
Edward Wellborn's
immigration record that he came over from England with his wife at the time, I'm assuming Elizabeth Wellborn, who's also Elizabeth Stokes.
And Elizabeth Dashiell.
Dashiell, yeah, it's actually
Dashiell or
Mitchell,
something,
Dashiell, Stooks, Wellborn.
So she was married 3 times.
Yeah, and in 1722.
Right.
So and the spelling has changed yet again for Wellborn to Wilburn, Willburn.
So they just spelled things however they felt like spelling them.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Before standardized
You know
spelling.
what? I've been dealing with that my whole life in this current generation, so it's not unusual.
Well, there was no standardized spelling back then, so
No.
you could spell things however they sounded.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, so she was.
But I have more parents.
Oh, really? So
But
you
it's
have his parents?
Well, I have his parents.
Robert and Elizabeth?
Yeah, Robert
Wow.
Wellborn, spelled yet a different way, and Elizabeth Price Wellborn.
Okay, well that's interesting because the other guy on this other site has his parents listed as being Thomas Wellborn. Or is this Thomas? Yeah, they have his parents listed as being Thomas.
Right. Well, they have a child named Thomas.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he's Thomas's
Right.
a brother or something.
Or since they came over from England and Thomas is a officer or whatever he is, maybe that the math or the dates might line up. We'll have to check it out.
Right, we're going to have to check it out and compare it. So we'll get back to you again.
Yep.
Oh my.
Okay.
Okay, so we figured out what the problem was in the two different spots.
Right. Edward Wellborn's father is also Edward Wellborn, who was born in 1663 in Lincolnshire, England.
Okay, so the one that we have that we were thinking was the father born in 1660 is actually the father of the Edward born in 1682.
Right.
And then that guy's father would be Thomas Wellborn, who was born in 1648.
So it would be the Edward that how would they be related? Is that brothers?
Wait, I was thinking it would be a grandfather.
Thomas?
Okay, let's think about it. Okay, yeah.
All right.
All right, read it again.
Okay. All right. So Edward Wellborn.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We were looking for him, thinking that his dad was Thomas.
Right. Because that's what this one genealogy says.
But Edward Wellborn had a son named Thomas.
Okay.
So we were thinking, okay, what is the deal? But the math didn't work on that.
Right. And you're seeing them in different pages listed with the dates, and the dates are not.
But Edward Wellborn is actually a junior, and his father was Edward Wellborn. He was born in England. His mother, Frances Elise Wellborn, was also born in England.
Okay.
And it does confirm that his spouse was Elizabeth Mitchell.
Right.
Or Stooks, the trampy one that was married 4 times.
Yeah.
And then they had a child, Elizabeth, Anne, and William. And Thomas.
Okay.
That was born in 1715.
So too many Thomases and Edwards to keep up with.
There's a lot of Thomases a lot.
I have the same problem in my family.
And that is really slowing us down a little bit. But that makes sense. But it makes sense back then.
Probably, I would assume. Okay, so the Thomas Wellborn born in 1648. Whose wife was Arcadia, is he the father of Edward? The second Edward?
I would say.
When was he born? He's born in 1663.
Right, so maybe he was Edward's brother.
He could be Edward's brother, possibly, but he might be his dad, too. Because this one guy is saying that Edward was married to, Elizabeth Mitchell, and that his father was Thomas, and his wife was Arcadia.
Okay.
Arcadia.
See, I'm wondering.
Well, the time there is it could be a brother or a father.
Right. Yeah. Right, because this son and the father have the same name.
Yeah.
So
and that would be easy to confuse in a genealogy.
Yep. And here we go. So we're going to figure that out.
We're going to figure that crap out.
All right.
What we're figuring it out is on Ancestry, this person has listed an open birth date from 1600 to 1680. So that when
with
you're
a question
searching,
mark.
Right. The other guy over here claims that Thomas had 2 sons named Edward, and probably the reality is he had a son named Edward, and Edward had a son named Edward, as it's listed here.
Right.
But that would leave the first Edward being born in 16...
This is 1663, is the older of the two.
The older Edward would be 1663, which they have him listed here at 1660.
Right, and the younger one in about 1682.
Right, and this person is less sure than this person, but this person is also messing up by giving him 2 Edwards.
Right.
And 1 Edward doesn't die, so it wouldn't have been a case of naming 2 children Edward.
Right.
One after a dead, which does happen sometimes.
Absolutely.
So we're pretty sure that the 2 Edwards we're seeing here and the 2 Edwards that we're seeing here are a father and son that got lost in a little genealogy.
Right, which is part of the mystery and the coolness of doing the genealogy is figuring out that mystery. In our quest to find everything, we got as far back as my 8th great grandfather, and who is Captain Thomas Wellborn, married to Arcadia Taft or Toft, but we can't find Thomas's parents. We can find the dad, but we can't find the mom.
You can't find the mother.
Yeah, but we're kind of sidetracked by Arcadia's mother, Anne Toft or Taft, who evidently was the mistress of an Edmund Scarborough and did very well for herself, and books have been written about this relationship, and so we're kind of on a rabbit hole learning more about this, tawdry affair that they had back then. So with that, and we can't go any further, we're just going to wrap it up, and I have really enjoyed Lauren's help.
Right.
You've really helped a lot.
Okay, cool. So you got back from...
Yeah. I have Lauren helping on Googling on one computer, and then I am verifying and searching on Ancestry.com. And I want to say I've tried Ancestry.com in the past, and it was a long time ago, and it was very hard to find out anything. But they have so many new tools and so many new ways to search that it makes it a lot easier and a lot more exciting and fun. So I'm glad I got back on, and I've had Lauren's help to help me navigate and get a little bit further than my grandparents.
Because it helps to Google and do that,
Right, because what you were looking for, what you found, and Noelle too, she's found a lot of different stuff too. She's the one that stumbled across the book that was written.
Right.
And many other things. So it really has been fun having friends help you with it too.
Right, yeah.
So
yeah, and you got several centuries back.
I did.
Which is pretty amazing.
Well, we got back to England, to the relatives that actually came over.
And we know there are other Wellborns in England. We just got to make the connection between your family and that family, which will take, that's where you hit
exactly. So
the glitch where you have to spend some time,
right,
sometimes years,
yeah,
hoping to,
no, but that's okay. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Researching periodically. But it's cool, you got back to your first ancestor in the United States.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for being on my video.
You got it. Okay, anytime. Okay.
So, in infamous last words, Noelle's looking through something and she finds a book where they list the next 3 ancestors up. And they come up with a Hugh Welburn, who's from also Yorkshire, from this little town called Oswaldkirk. Our little vicinity called Oswaldkirk, Yorkshire, England. Anyway, and then when you go on there, it gives you the next 3 people up. So we've gotten past 1500s.
Yeah.
We thought we were going bad.